There comes a moment, perhaps in the silence of a morning, or in the hush after a long day, when something inside us whispers, "You don't need to keep chasing anymore." Have you heard it? It's not a loud voice. It doesn't rush in like ambition once did. It arrives gently, like the soft hush of autumn wind through the trees, reminding you that not every leaf needs to stay on the branch forever. Some things are meant to fall away. Once upon a time, maybe you raced through life with a checklist in hand. Achievements, promotions, bigger homes, faster cars, sharper suits, approval from others, praise, respect, recognition. We've all done it in some form or another, chasing life as if it were a train about to leave us behind. But the truth is, we were never meant to catch that train, because the deeper journey was always inward. Now, after 60, life begins to feel different, doesn't it? Not smaller, just quieter, not duller, but more meaningful, not rushed, but finally lived. Some people might resist this idea. They might say, "But if we stop striving, won't we grow stagnant?" Others might feel uneasy letting go of goals they've clung to for decades. And yet, what if true freedom isn't found in adding more, but in releasing what no longer brings peace? This is not a call to give up, it's a call to wake up, to stop chasing life in all the places it never lived, and to finally begin living in the moments we used to overlook. In this reflection, we'll walk together through 8 things many of us once thought were essential, goals, values, or habits that shaped entire decades of our lives. But now, they've begun to loosen their grip, and in their place, something softer, more enduring is emerging. Let's begin this gentle walk, not toward more achievement, but toward quiet wisdom. Part 1. The fading allure of old ambitions. There was a time when ambition lit up our mornings like an alarm clock ringing in the soul. Sharp, demanding, persistent. We woke up with a fire in the belly, a hunger for more money, more status, more progress, more something. We didn't always know what it was exactly, only that it was just out of reach. And so we ran through our 30s, 40s, even into our 50s, chasing that shimmering mirage we were taught to call success. But now, somewhere between the slower footsteps and the quieter evenings, we begin to notice that once fiery hunger has cooled. The old ambitions that once roared so loudly have grown still. It's not that we've failed to achieve them. In fact, many of us have climbed the ladders we once stared at with longing. We've built careers, raised families, bought homes, checked the boxes, and yet, the strange irony is that once we get there, we often find the view isn't quite what we imagined. The mountaintop feels windier than expected, and lonelier too. Let me tell you a story. Years ago, I had a friend named Walter, a man who had built an empire in his industry. He owned 5 properties, 3 luxury cars, had retired early, and wore success like a perfectly tailored suit. But one afternoon, we sat on a bench in the park behind his house, a place he rarely had time to visit while he was working. He looked at the swaying trees and said, with a voice I'd never heard from him before, "You know, I spent my whole life climbing a ladder, and I think it was leaning against the wrong wall." That sentence stayed with me, because in Buddhism, there's a truth we speak of often, the truth of dukkha, or suffering. But suffering isn't always loud. It can come dressed as achievement. It can come disguised as the next promotion or the next possession, quietly draining us while whispering, "Just a little more." The Buddha taught that craving is the root of suffering, not because wanting is evil, but because it never ends. One goal leads to another, and we forget to ask, when is it enough? The great turning point after 60 is this: we start to remember that the race was never the point. Life was never about arriving, it was about being. And now, finally, we have the chance to step out of the stampede, to breathe again, and to reclaim the forgotten joys, the small morning rituals, the handwritten letters, the sound of birdsong that we once tuned out because we were too busy tuning in to our schedules. So if you feel a soft loosening inside, as though your once sacred goals are fading into the background, don't be alarmed. That's not failure, that's freedom. It's life inviting you to shed what's no longer needed. And maybe, just maybe, the dreams we let go of were never truly ours to begin with. Part 2. The shift from hard work to wise effort. There's a quiet honesty that settles into the bones after 6 decades of life. It's the kind of truth you don't learn in a book, nor earn through applause. You earn it through tired hands, sleepless nights, and the echo of your own breath after years of pushing against the wind. And one day, often without warning, you pause and ask yourself, do I still need to work this hard, or is it time to work differently, more wisely? For most of our lives, hard work was a badge of honor. We were raised on the belief that labor, especially the kind that comes with sweat, long hours and sacrifice, was the measure of a good person. And in many ways it served us. It built bridges, fed families, and gave us a sense of identity in a chaotic world. But there comes a point, perhaps right around the time the knees begin to ache and the mornings feel a bit slower, when you start to feel that blind effort, for its own sake, no longer holds the same reward. I remember meeting a man named Clyde, a retired stonemason in his late 70s, who once shaped entire buildings with nothing but his hands and a chisel. His palms were thick and leathered, like bark that had endured 100 winters. When I asked if he missed the work, he smiled and said, "I miss the stone, but not the weight of it." Then he added, "Now I shape my time like I used to shape rock, slowly, purposefully, with more thought and less force." That, to me, is wise effort. In Buddhist teaching, there is a subtle but vital distinction between craving-driven effort and mindful effort. One comes from desire, a restless need to prove, to gain, to conquer. The other emerges from intention, the gentle yet clear movement toward peace, clarity, and compassion. Right effort, as it's called in the Noble Eightfold Path, is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters, with care and awareness, without exhausting the soul. This doesn't mean we stop being active or productive. On the contrary, our efforts may even become more powerful because they are no longer scattered. We choose how to invest our time in meaningful conversations, in tending a small garden, in mentoring a younger soul. We give ourselves permission to rest, not out of laziness, but out of reverence for a body that has served us faithfully. It's a humbling shift, and it often requires courage, especially in a culture that still equates busyness with worth. But over time, we begin to see busyness is not a virtue. Presence is, and presence requires space, not speed. So if your body no longer moves the way it once did, if the long work days leave you more weary than proud, know this: you are not falling behind. You are simply being invited to live in rhythm with your season of life. Just as the river doesn't rage in the dry season, neither must we. The time has come, not to push harder, but to move wiser. And in that quiet pivot, we often rediscover a part of ourselves we lost in the race. The part that remembers how to sit still, how to breathe deeply, and how to be here fully. Part 3. Letting go of materialism and the need to impress. There's a peculiar kind of silence that arrives when we stop trying to impress others. It doesn't come all at once. It comes in soft, almost invisible waves, like the slow unclenching of a fist that's been gripping too tightly for too long. And in that silence, we start to see how much of our lives were shaped by the quiet desperation to be seen admired, even envied. It often begins innocently enough. A new coat to feel confident, a nicer car to feel successful, a bigger home to feel secure. But over time, these symbols of comfort begin to transform into chains. Golden perhaps, but chains all the same. There's a story from the Buddhist tradition that tells of a wealthy merchant who built a grand home filled with silks, statues, and rare treasures from around the world. When a wandering monk came to visit, the merchant eagerly showed him his collection, hoping for praise. But the monk simply smiled and said, "You own many beautiful things. I only hope they do not own you." That line, "I hope they do not own you," rings more true now than ever. Because many of us, in the rush of middle age, spent decades acquiring, not always out of greed, but out of fear. Fear of not being enough. Fear of falling behind. Fear of what others might think if we didn't have the right shoes, the latest phone, or the perfect holiday photo. But what if we were to ask ourselves, who am I trying to impress, and why? After 60, this question takes on a new weight. The applause fades, the race quiets, and we begin to see that no one's really keeping score but us. The neighbors we once tried to outdo. They're dealing with their own storms. The co-workers we tried to impress. Many have long disappeared from our lives. Even the strangers on the street, the ones we dressed up for, the ones we feared being judged by, they pass us by in moments, never knowing the stories we carry. One day, standing in front of a closet packed with clothes I hadn't worn in years, I felt a strange sadness. Not because I didn't wear them, but because I once believed they gave me value. I began to take them down, one by one, folding them gently and letting them go. Each release felt like exhaling after holding my breath for too long. In Buddhism, we are taught the beauty of simplicity, not as a form of denial, but as a path to clarity. The less we carry, the lighter we become. The less we try to prove, the more peace we allow in. So now, I live by a quieter rule. If it doesn't bring me joy, if it doesn't serve a real purpose, or deepen a connection, I let it go. Whether it's a possession, a performance, or a persona. Because real worth is never in the label of a jacket, or the shine of a car, or the square footage of a house. It's in the kindness of a moment, the depth of a laugh, the freedom of walking down the street without needing to impress a single soul. And in that freedom, my friends, is where true elegance lives. Part 4. No longer competing with the Joneses. There's a kind of weariness that sets in after years of silent competition, not the kind found in stadiums or boardrooms, but the invisible race we run in neighborhoods, family gatherings, and even Sunday parking lots. You know the one. Where we glance at the neighbor's new car and feel a twinge, where someone's remodeled kitchen suddenly makes our home feel outdated, where we hear about a friend's luxurious vacation and wonder, are we falling behind? The funny thing is, no one ever officially enters this race. There's no registration, no starting gun, just a quiet pressure that grows over time, fed by magazines, commercials, and sometimes even the people closest to us. It's a game of comparison, and the prize is, what exactly? A temporary sense of being ahead. A fleeting moment of pride that quickly evaporates the moment someone else upgrades. I remember a man named Ed, who lived 2 houses down from me. Every few months, he had something new delivered to his driveway, a sparkling SUV, the latest riding lawn mower, or a sleek outdoor patio set complete with a fire pit. He was a kind man, always waved, but I often noticed the strain in his eyes. One day, while chatting over the fence, he said, "You know, I keep trying to outdo myself, but the satisfaction lasts about a week. Then he laughed, a little sadly, and added, "Feels like chasing wind." That image stuck with me, chasing wind, because that's exactly what the comparison game is. The moment we catch up, the finish line moves. Someone always has more. A bigger yard, a fancier grill, a grander story. And if we're not careful, we spend our precious time trying to win a race no one ever wins, while missing out on the life quietly blooming within reach. Buddhist teachings remind us of a powerful concept called mudita, the ability to feel joy for others without envy. It's the gentle art of smiling when a friend succeeds, without letting it make us feel small. It's also the path to true liberation, because as long as we measure our lives by someone else's yardstick, we will never feel whole. When you stop competing with the Joneses, something magical happens. You begin to see your own life more clearly. That tree in your yard, the one you used to wish was taller, now becomes a source of shade and peace. That old car, once a symbol of not enough, becomes a trusted friend that still carries you where you need to go. The kitchen you never remodeled, still the heart of family meals and laughter. The moment we release ourselves from the invisible scoreboard, we gain something far more lasting: contentment. And here's the thing no one tells you. The Joneses, they're tired too. They're chasing their own illusions, struggling to keep up with someone else. It's a cycle without end, unless someone steps out of it. So let it be you. Let today be the day you say, "I don't need to win that race, because I'm no longer running it." Your peace is not measured by anyone else's timeline. Your joy is not dependent on someone else's upgrades. You are allowed to live simply, deeply, and quietly, and know that you are already enough. Part 5. Freeing yourself from others' opinions. Some prisons have no bars, no locks, no guards, and yet they hold us tighter than any cell. One of the deepest, most invisible prisons we inhabit is the constant need to be approved of, to be liked, to be seen in a certain way by others. And the keys to that prison, they were always in our hands. For much of life we carry a subtle weight, the gaze of others. We make decisions not just based on what feels right, but on what will make us appear smart, successful, agreeable, appropriate. We ask ourselves, what will they think? Even before we ask, what do I truly want? And yet with age, there's a kind of shedding that begins, not always loudly, sometimes even reluctantly, but it begins. We tire of performing, we tire of pretending, and more than that, we begin to question, who are they anyway? The colleagues who barely know our middle name, the acquaintances who scroll past our lives in silence, the neighbors we wave to but rarely truly speak with. There's a story I once heard of a woman in her 70s named Evelyn. She was once the pillar of her community, involved in every committee, known for always saying yes. She baked for every event, hosted every dinner, and always wore the same polite smile. One day she stopped. She stepped away from the obligations, declined the invitations, let her garden grow wild. When asked why, she said, "I spent 40 years trying to be everyone's favorite, and not one of them held my hand when my husband passed. So now, I'm choosing myself." That kind of clarity often comes at a cost. It can feel like loss at first, the loss of image, approval, applause. But what rushes in to fill that space is far more precious: authenticity and peace. In Buddhist thought, right view and right intention are foundational elements of a wise path. They ask us to look at life not through the distorted lens of ego and fear, but through the clear mirror of self-awareness. When we start to live in alignment with our inner truth, regardless of how others perceive it, we begin to taste true freedom. Imagine how many decisions you've made, large or small, under the influence of someone else's imagined judgment. The clothes you bought, the events you forced yourself to attend, the silences you held when your heart wanted to speak. What if, just for today, you gave yourself permission to live unfiltered? You don't need to be louder. You don't need to rebel. You simply need to return to your own inner compass. That quiet voice that says, "This is right for me," even if no one else understands. There is no need to be rude, no need to push others away, but there is deep strength in learning to say, "This is who I am now, and that is enough." The truth is, people's opinions are like clouds. They come and go, shift with the wind, and often disappear altogether. What remains is the sky, vast, open, steady, like the deeper part of you that's always known. You were never meant to live for their approval. You were meant to live for your peace. Part 6. Embracing imperfection and the beauty of good enough. There's a quiet relief that comes with saying the words, "This is enough," not out of resignation, not because we've given up, but because we finally made peace with the fact that perfection was never the point and never the promise. For so long, many of us lived under the tyranny of perfection. We strived to be the perfect employee, the perfect spouse, the perfect parent, the perfect version of ourselves. We arranged pictures just right, folded laundry a certain way, wrote emails with meticulous grammar, and replayed conversations in our heads wondering, could I have said that better? Perfection, in many ways, was our false comfort, a way to feel in control. But like all illusions, it exacted a quiet toll. It drained joy from the moment, turned small tasks into silent battles, and made rest feel undeserved unless everything was just right. And yet, as the seasons of life shift and we find ourselves in the later chapters, something inside softens. The sharp edges of should begin to blur. The inner critic, that voice that once barked orders and pointed out every flaw, now speaks a little less often, a little less urgently, and in its place, there is space. Space to breathe, to laugh, to accept. I remember watching my grandmother sew when I was young. She'd stitch quilts by hand, every patch a story, every line a quiet meditation. One day I pointed out a crooked seam. She smiled, leaned in and said, "Child, that's the part I love most. It reminds me I'm still human." That moment, simple as it was, has stayed with me ever since. In Japanese culture, there's a beautiful philosophy known as Wabishabi, the art of finding beauty in imperfection, impermanence, and incompleteness. A cracked teacup, a faded painting, a weathered wooden bench, not despite their flaws, but because of them. Each mark is a whisper of time, a fingerprint of life, a testament to resilience. Buddhist thought echoes this in its embrace of anicca, the truth of impermanence. Nothing stays polished forever, and the more we chase flawlessness, the more we miss the raw, beautiful essence of things as they are. Think about how many precious moments were delayed or lost because something wasn't ready. The dinner we didn't host because the house wasn't spotless. The smile we withheld because our hair wasn't perfect. The project we never began because we feared it wouldn't be good enough. But what if good enough is the doorway to grace? When we accept imperfection in ourselves, in others, in our surroundings, we begin to live with gentler eyes. We stop correcting every wrinkle, stop editing every thought, and start embracing the richness of the real. We hang the slightly crooked picture frame. We leave the scratch on the table. We write the letter with slightly messy handwriting and send it anyway. Perfection isolates. Humanity connects. So today, if you find a stain on your shirt, a scar on your skin, a chapter of your life that didn't go as planned, let it be. Let it be part of the mosaic. The masterpiece isn't found in flawlessness, it's found in wholeness. And wholeness is simply loving the pieces as they are. You are not a project to fix. You are a story to honor. And even with the smudges, the stumbles, the imperfect lines, you are more than enough. Part 7. Saying no without guilt. Saying yes to peace. There's a moment in life, often after years of saying yes to everyone else, when we realize that every time we said yes to others, we might have been quietly saying no to ourselves. And for many of us, that realization doesn't come in a flash of insight, but in a slow, aching fatigue. A tiredness not of the body, but of the soul. How many times have we agreed to one more favor, one more event, one more responsibility, not out of joy, but out of duty, guilt, or the need to please? We've been trained, especially in earlier generations, to value harmony over honesty, sacrifice over self-respect. We learned to smile while our inner voice whispered, "You don't have to do this." And yet, we did. There's a story I once heard about an elderly woman named Jean. In her younger years, she was known as the reliable one, the one who would say yes no matter what. She planned every holiday dinner, drove neighbors to appointments, watched everyone's kids, and never once asked for help. People praised her, admired her, but what they didn't see was how often she cried in her laundry room, exhausted and unseen. It wasn't until her 70th birthday, when her doctor gently warned her about stress-related illness, that she began to ask herself, what would happen if I said no? The first time she declined an invitation, her hands trembled. The second time, her voice cracked. But by the third time, something incredible happened. She felt peace. Not because she was pushing people away, but because she was finally pulling herself inward. This is the gentle revolution of learning to say no, not with anger, not with coldness, but with clarity and love. In Buddhist philosophy, we speak often of boundaries not as walls, but as forms of compassion. Compassion for the self, compassion for our limited energy, our tender hearts, our time, which grows ever more sacred as we age. The Buddha taught that to live wisely is to understand the causes of suffering, and one of those causes is continually placing others' comfort above our own truth. Now, this doesn't mean we shut the door on kindness. Quite the opposite. True kindness can only bloom when it comes from an open, rested, and authentic heart. When we give out of guilt, we offer something tainted. But when we give from a place of fullness, even the smallest act becomes radiant. Imagine your inner world as a garden. If you plant seeds without rest, if you water others' roots while neglecting your own, the soil hardens, the flowers wilt. But if you learn to say, "This space is mine to tend," then the blossoms return. And those who truly love you will understand, even if it takes time. So say no when your body asks for rest. Say no when your spirit feels heavy. Say no to keep room for the unexpected joys, the book you never finished, the quiet walk in the park, the afternoon nap in the sun. And most of all, say no to guilt, that heavy cloak woven from others' expectations. Because every time you say no from the heart, you are saying yes to peace. You are saying yes to balance, to breath, to space. And in that sacred space, your truest self begins to breathe again. Part 8. Seeking validation only from the heart circle. It's a tender truth we all learn in time. Not everyone's opinion deserves a seat at the table of our soul. In our younger years, perhaps, we cast our nets wide, craving approval from co-workers, acquaintances, distant relatives, and even perfect strangers. We wanted to be liked, admired, acknowledged. We hoped our choices would be met with applause, that our efforts would be seen. And often, we shaped our lives in the image of what others expected. But with age, blessed, beautiful age, comes a quiet unraveling of that need. Somewhere along the path, we begin to realize that seeking validation from the world is like trying to fill a cup with rain during a drought. No matter how long you wait, it never feels quite full. I remember an old friend named Russell. He was a retired teacher, soft-spoken and thoughtful, who once said to me over tea, "In my 30s, I wanted everyone to approve of me. In my 40s, I wanted people to admire me. In my 50s, I wanted to be respected. But now, I just want to be known. By a few, deeply." His eyes misted a little, and then he smiled. Turns out, the people who matter most were always there. I just didn't see them clearly through the noise. That noise, oh how loud it can be. Social media likes, polite nods, corporate feedback, holiday small talk. The world trains us to believe that wider approval equals greater worth. But the Dharma, the Buddha's teaching, offers a different path. It reminds us that true validation must arise from within, from alignment between heart and action. It cannot be outsourced. It cannot be borrowed. And so the circle begins to shrink, not from bitterness, but from wisdom. We start to see that some people, though loud, never really knew us, that some connections, though once bright, were built on shallow soil. And at the same time, we come to recognize the sacred few who have always listened, really listened, not just to our words, but to the pauses between them. Perhaps it is your spouse, who knows the way your hands tremble when you're nervous, or your oldest friend, who has weathered decades by your side. Or maybe it is your grown child, now finally understanding the sacrifices you once made in silence. These are the ones who hold space for your truths, who honor your growth, who cheer you on even when you change. They are your heart's circle, and they are more than enough. Let go of chasing validation from the crowd. Let go of editing yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant for your soul. Speak your truth, softly but clearly. Share your art. Laugh without permission. Cry without apology. And if someone doesn't understand, let them go. In the forest of your life, not everyone was meant to walk the full trail with you. Some were only passing through. But those who remain, the ones who show up even in silence, who honor your journey even when it no longer matches theirs, these are your true companions. So speak to them, listen to them, trust them, and above all, trust yourself, because the most precious validation of all comes not from a mirror held by others, but from the mirror of a still, content heart that whispers, "I am enough, just as I am." Conclusion. The gentle victory of growing older, and so we arrive, not at the end, but at a softer beginning. As we reflect on this journey together, a quiet truth becomes clear. Growing older is not a decline. It's a return to stillness, to presence, to what truly matters. Not the noise, not the race, not the applause, but the calm, knowing that life, in its simplest form, is already enough. We've walked through the tender terrain of letting go, of old ambitions, the grind of endless work, the pressure to impress, the need to compare. We've touched the gentle strength that comes with embracing imperfection, learning to say no without shame, and listening more deeply to the soft voice within. And we've begun to see that real validation doesn't come from the crowd. It comes from the heart's circle, and from the quiet dignity of being fully ourselves. Aging, then, is not about losing power. It's about reclaiming it, not through dominance, but through clarity, not by doing more, but by needing less. So, may I ask you something? What might your days feel like if you stopped chasing life and let it come to you? What would you choose if you no longer needed to prove anything to anyone? What would peace look like? in your home, in your heart, in your very breath. You don't have to know all the answers, but you do have the right to ask better questions. At this stage of life, urgency softens, stillness deepens, and in that stillness, we begin to hear the wisdom that was always waiting, like a warm lamp on a quiet table, gently lighting the path we already walk. So let this next chapter unfold, not with the weight of expectations, but with the lightness of being. Let each day be less about reaching and more about resting into the present. Let your value be measured, not by what you accomplish, but by how fully you arrive in each moment. May you walk gently now with no need to run, no race to win, no image to uphold. May your life become not louder, but truer. And if today's reflection stirred something within you, if it felt like a soft mirror held up to your soul, then walk with us here at Quiet Wisdom. Because this path, this slow, sacred path, is not meant to be walked alone. Subscribe to Quiet Wisdom today. Let this be your refuge, your reminder, your rhythm. We'll be here, holding the lanterns quietly, one step at a time. Until we meet again, may you find peace, not at the finish line, but in every step you take.